Hi, this is Max Rodersman from Does It Matter? And once again, we have Craig Kelly in Georgia, and it's November 1st, 2022. How's it going, Craig?
Good morning, Max. It's going very, very well here. Happy day after Halloween. And I'm here again in Cobbs County, Georgia at the fairground watching people vote.
So, yesterday I speculated that there'd be less people because of egg throwing, even though it isn't a thing anymore.
The eggs might have been thrown really slowly. Today's been, I think, in this particular location, very slow.
So the same as yesterday.
Yeah, I think slower. Yesterday they had about 600 people. I'd be surprised if they get over 400 today based on their rate. But the challenge with this, it's sort of, it's almost like traffic planning or something. You got to plan for a peak that you don't know. So they don't want people turned away from the polls when they show up and see a line of cars or a line of people. The whole idea is make voting accessible, right? Which means you're vastly overstaffed most of the time. And it's just, there's nothing you can do about it because you don't know when 25 people are going to show up. And if you don't have the staff that they have, it can really turn into a real challenge. And I think they're working super well, and they're going to be ready on Election Day. And we'll probably see heavier voting maybe on Thursday and especially Friday, people have told me, as folks jump ahead of Election Day, realizing that the last day of advanced voting is Friday.
Right. So you're only going to be doing this for, today's Tuesday, for 3 more days. Is that right?
Well, I'll be doing this advanced voting through Friday. And then, of course, there's the Election Day, which is going to be operationally the same, the same machines, same core group of people. They'll have to expand the staff by about a factor of 10 or something, because as I said the other day, they'll have about 12 times as many places to vote because they open up all the precincts rather than have county-wide voting at stations throughout the county, which is what they do during advanced voting. But the process will be the same. It's going to be, you come in, you check yourself in on a poll pad, they make sure that you're who you say you are, you get your ballot, or actually you don't get your ballot, you get your little key thing, like a hotel room key, that activates what they call a ballot marking device. And so you make your selections on essentially a big computer monitor. It prints out your ballot, and you look at your ballot, and you say, okay, and they're really good at this. They say, look at your ballot. Make sure it's who you want, because when you put it in the scanner, that's when you're actually casting your vote, and you can't take it back. And the staff, they say this stuff. I've heard them say it thousands of times now. They've got it down. So when someone casts the ballot into the scanning machine, that's when they're voting. And if they change their mind, then it sometimes happens that they realize that they pressed the wrong button or whatever. They go to the poll manager, and the poll manager writes spoiled or whatever it is on the ballot so it can't get counted. And then they start over again.
Interesting.
It is, I think, very, very interesting and very thorough.
But what's the scuttlebutt for, or is there any scuttlebutt, that there will be efforts at voter suppression on Election Day?
I don't know, Max. I have seen nothing that leads me to think that there will be voter suppression, like active voter suppression, at the polls. And that's what I'm here for. There are other ways to suppress voters. There's misinformation about polling location. There's misinformation about need for ID. There's all sorts of ways that rumor and texts and emails and websites can lead people not to vote. And I'm sure that's happening in some places. But as far as actual suppression and intimidation at the polls, I'm not seeing it. And again, I've been to, 8 or so polls at this point in life over the past 2.5 weeks. And it's also difficult for me to imagine how you're going to carry that out logistically. Now that I know a little bit more, I'm thinking, man, you'd have to be so organized to make a meaningful on-site intimidation effort. The county in Cobb County alone is going to have 114, something like that, polling locations on Tuesday. Now, how do you and they're going to be open for 12 hours apiece. So how do you figure out an intimidation process actually there? I haven't seen it, and I don't think at this point that it's going to happen. It certainly does happen in some places, but I think that is just sort of whacked out people being driven by fear and hate from the Republican news or Republican messaging that's coming out. But I don't think it's as organized at the Republican level to do that sort of intimidation on the ground, as opposed to via the internet, via text, misinformation, that sort of thing. And misinformation, by the way, is a form of suppression. If you get the word out there that you need a tax bill for, and I'm making this up, but you need a tax bill to vote, and people start believing it and don't show up to the polls, well, that's suppression too. Suppression takes many forms. Suppression is the thing that keeps people from voting when they have the legal right to vote. And that's what I'm down here to combat. My little piece of it is to keep on-site suppression from
Hold on one
happening.
sec. Okay, hold on one second, Craig. Sorry.